She shook his hand. He walked inside, shut the door behind him, and sat down at the table. "You won't believe it," he said as he looked at his picture of the green monster hanging on the wall. "You just won't believe it." "I'm sure I won't," Carla agreed. She sat across from him. She was wearing a sleeveless black and white checkered shirt. "Okay, I'll tell you," said Bradley. "I was hoping you would. Do you know where I was before I was here?" "No." He slammed his fist on the table. "The girls' bathroom." He told her all about it, how the girl had used the toilet next to him and how he thought she had left, but really another girl had entered. "At first I didn't know which girl was which, but then one of them screamed, so she must have been the one." "Who was she?" asked Carla. "Did you know her?" "Yes, but I don't think I should tell you her name. She probably doesn't want anybody else to know." "That's very considerate of you, Bradley." He shrugged. "Shall we have lunch?" asked Carla. "Okay." He took out his roast beef sandwich. Carla set her lunch on the table. She had a carton of yogurt and a plate of sliced tomatoes and cucumbers. "That looks good," said Bradley. "You want to trade?" "Okay." They traded lunches. Bradley ate a slice of cucumber. He thought it was delicious. "So what were you doing inside the girls' bathroom?" asked Carla. She took a big bite out of Bradley's roast beef sandwich. "Jeff and his friends were chasing me," he explained. "Jeff's got a black eye just like me. They think I gave it to him." "Did you?" He could have lied. He could have said, "Sure." He beat up Jeff with one hand tied behind his back. He knew Carla always believed whatever he said. "No, I can't even beat up a girl," he said. "Melinda Birch beat me up. Do you know her?" "No." "You'd like her. She's nice." Carla smiled. Bradley ate a slice of tomato, followed by a spoonful of yogurt. "I hid in the library at recess," he said. "They couldn't beat me up in the library, even if they found me. You can't even talk in the library." "Yes, I know." "Isn't it amazing?" "What's that?" "The library. All those books, and they're all different, aren't they?" Carla nodded as she drank Bradley's juice through a straw. "I kept thinking about that the whole time I was there," he said. "They're all different, but they all use practically the same words. They just put them in different order." "Did you—" "Just 26 letters," he told her. All they do is move those letters around, and then they say so many different things. Did you—" "You'd think after a while they'd run out of ways to move them around," said Bradley. "Did you check out a book?" "No, Mrs. Wilcott won't let me. I used to a long time ago before I met you. I used to check out books and not return them. I used to scribble in them and rip them up. So she won't let me check out books anymore. The whole time I was there, she kept watching me, saying, 'I don't want any trouble from you, Bradley.'" He ate another slice of cucumber. "I just wanted to look at a book. I wasn't going to ruin it." "I know," said Carla. "And after a while, Mrs. Wilcott will know that too." "I'm trying to be good," said Bradley, "but nobody will give me a chance." "They will. It just takes time." "Do you ever play checkers on your shirt?" he asked. Carla nearly spit out her juice. She laughed and shook her head. "I like your shirts," he said. "I like your socks," said Carla. Bradley looked at his mismatched socks. "I thought I changed them," he said, befuddled. "I hate socks that match," said Carla. "See?" She stuck out her legs. She was wearing white pants. She had on one white sock and one black sock. Bradley smiled. It wasn't his usual twisted smile, but one that was genuine. It was one that, up till now, had only been seen by Ronnie and Bartholomew. "Ooh, Bradley's beginning to change." "I know something good you can do," said Carla, "and Mrs. Ebel will notice it too." "What?" "Homework." The smile dropped off his face. "No, I can't," he said. "Sure you can," said Carla. "I can't." His eyes filled with tears. "You can do anything you want to, Bradley Chalkers. I have a lot of confidence in you." He shook his head. "But I can't," his voice cracked. "Don't say I can't. As long as you say you can't do something, then of course you won't do it. Say I can. Say I can, and you can do anything. I can't, I can't." He was crying. "Really, it's not that difficult. You're making a big deal out of nothing. If you want, I will help you." "I can't," he sobbed. "Why can't you?" she demanded. He wiped his eyes with his sleeve and sniffled. He looked Carla straight in the eye and said, "I don't know what page we're on." "Oh, Bradley," Carla whispered. Her eyes glistened. She stood up, walked around the table, and gave him a hug. Chapter 28. Bradley lay on his bed on his stomach. He chewed the end of his pencil as he looked hopelessly at the arithmetic book. Remember, arithmetic is math. opened in front of him. Next to the book was a piece of paper. In the upper right-hand corner he had written Bradley Chalkers, Homework, Arithmetic, page 43, Red Hill School, room 12, Mrs. Ebel's class, last seat, last row, black eye. His handwriting, which was messy anyhow, was made worse by the fact that he wrote with a dull pencil on top of a soft bed. He had stayed in Mrs. Ebel's class as long as he could after the bell rang. Bradley, it's time to go home, Mrs. Ebel finally said to him. He looked outside, unsure if Jeff and his gang of bullies were waiting for him. I have a question, he said. Mrs. Ebel eyed him suspiciously. What kind of question? He tried to figure out what kind of question he had. An asking question. I see, said Mrs. Ebel. May I ask it? He asked. Okay, she said reluctantly. He asked his question. What page is the homework on? The homework? Page 43. He wrote 43 on the top of his sneakers so he wouldn't forget, then took his arithmetic book and stepped outside. Jeff and his friends were playing basketball. He ran home. Now he looked hopelessly at page 43, shook his head, and sighed. Question 1. What is 3/4 of 2/3? It was the most impossible question he'd ever seen. His mind wandered. Hey, Bradley, what are you doing? Asked Ronnie. Homework. What's homework? She asked. It's work you do at home. Is that supposed to be funny? She asked. No, really. That's what they do at school. They give you work to do at home and they call it homework. You've never done it before, said Ronnie. I'm doing it for Carla. Now leave me alone so I can concentrate. Question 1. What is 3/4 of 2/3? Why are you doing it for Carla? Ronnie asked. He sighed. Okay, I'll tell you, but you can't tell anyone. Ronnie promised not to tell. We're in love. Really? Exclaimed Ronnie. How do you know? She hugged me. Ooh, that means she loves you, said Ronnie. Are you going to marry her? Maybe when I'm older. First, I have to do my homework. I'm going to marry Bartholomew, said Ronnie. I know, said Bradley. Now let me do my homework. Question 1. What is 3/4 of 2/3? Hey, Bradley, what's going on? Asked Bartholomew. Leave him alone, said Ronnie. He's trying to do his homework. He can't concentrate when you're talking to him. Maybe I can help, said Bartholomew. What's the problem? What is 3/4 of 2/3? Bradley asked. 3/4 of 2/3, Bartholomew repeated. That's a tough problem, all right. 3/4 of 2/3. Let's see. You divide 3 into, no. You multiply 2 times, no. Of means divide, said the donkey. Like, if you have half of something, it means you divide by 2. You divide 3 by 2 and 4 by 3. Bradley started to write that down. No, of means times, said the lion. You have to multiply everything. First you have to reverse the nominators, said the fox. You don't reverse, you inverse, corrected the mother cocker spaniel. I think you have to find a common denominator, said the elephant. Not for multiplication, said the hippopotamus. That's only for addition. Multiplication is the same as addition, said the fox, only faster. You cancel out the 3's, said the kangaroo. You always cancel out the 3's. You multiply the 3's, said the lion. Bradley kept erasing and rewriting and erasing and rewriting until there was nothing but a big black smudge covering his paper. On the top of the smudge, he tried to write 3 times 3 equals 9, but as he did so, his pencil tore a hole through the paper. The answer can't be 9, said Ronnie. If you start out with fractions, you have to end up with a fraction. Bradley slammed the book shut. None of you know what you're talking about, he cried out in disgust. He took the book, paper, and pencil and walked down the hall to the dining room. His mother was sitting at the table, working a crossword puzzle from the newspaper. He plopped down next to her and sighed. She looked at him inquisitively. I can't figure out how to do my homework, he complained. Can you help me? His mother smiled. I'd be delighted. Let me see. He pushed his arithmetic book in front of her. Page 43. She opened the book to that page and looked at Bradley's torn, smudged paper. Okay, first let me clear away this newspaper so we can have a nice, neat place to work. While I do that, I want you to get a clean sheet of paper. I don't have any more paper. This is all I brought home. There's some paper in your father's desk. Get a sharp pencil, too. He looked at her in disbelief. He wasn't allowed to touch anything on his father's desk. She nodded. Bradley felt a little scared as he walked into the extra bedroom which his father used as an office. He opened the top drawer of the old oak desk and carefully took out a piece of paper and a pencil. He shut the drawer, looked around him, then hurried back to his mother. She smiled at him. He sat down and wrote, much neater this time. Bradley Chalkers, homework, arithmetic, page 43, Red Hill School, room 12, Mrs. Ebel's class, last seat, last row, black eye. You have to put all of that, he explained, in case it gets lost. She read the first question aloud. What is 3/4 of 2/3? He shrugged. Okay, she said. The first thing you want to do is write the equation. He still didn't know what to do. She wrote it for him. 3/4 times 2/3 equals. Whenever you say the word of, it means to multiply, she explained. Of means times, he said. Right, said his mother. That's what the lion had said. Now you cancel out the threes, said his mother. That's what the kangaroo had said. You always cancel the threes. Neither of them noticed that Claudia was standing behind them watching. That's not how you're supposed to learn it, she said abruptly. Bradley turned around and glared at her. You have to explain why you cancel them, said Claudia, and they don't call it canceling. It's called dividing by 1. I just know the way I learned it, said Mrs. Chalkers. If you want, I can show you, Bradley, said Claudia. He looked at his mother, then back at Claudia, then at his mother. She knows the way they're teaching it now, said his mother. You'll help me? Bradley asked his sister. Sure, why not? I got nothing better to do. Mrs. Chalkers stood up, and Claudia took her place. Don't do it for him, said Bradley's mother. Make sure he knows how to do it himself. Claudia worked patiently with Bradley for the rest of the afternoon. When he said he understood something, she made him explain it to her. That was harder. He understood it when she did it, but then he had trouble when he tried to do it himself. By dinner time, they were only a little more than halfway through. Bradley wanted Claudia to help him after dinner, too, but she had her own homework to do. You know how to do it, she told him. You can do it yourself. I need help, he complained. I'll help you, said his father. You will? Let's go to my office. We can work at my desk. Bradley couldn't believe it. They worked together. Bradley was surprised by how much his father knew. He made all the hard parts seem easy. Bradley was a little disappointed by how quickly they finished. He had liked working with his father. He brought his finished homework back to his room. Oh, I get it, Bradley, said Bartholomew. You multiply the numerators and denominators separately. So I still don't understand reducing. It's easy, said Bradley. Here, let me show you again. I'm going to keep going, guys, for the next chapter, chapter 29. Bradley was too excited to sleep. Mrs. Ebel will be so surprised, he thought. She'll tell the whole class. Only one person got 100%. Bradley. But there were so many things that could still go wrong. What if I lose it on the way to school, he wondered. What if Jeff and his friends steal it? Twice during the night he got out of bed to make sure it was safely folded inside his arithmetic book. What if I did the wrong page? He was no longer sure whether Mrs. Ebel had said page 43 or page 62. He tried to remember exactly what she said to him. He sat up in horror. She never said it was arithmetic homework. Mrs. Ebel had just said a page number. She never said what book. She could have meant history or language or any of his other books. He lay back down and trembled. His tears wet his pillow. He got out of bed early in the morning, checked to see if his homework was still there, then quickly got ready and left for school without eating breakfast. On the way, he stopped to make sure he still had his homework. As he opened his book, the paper fell onto the sidewalk, right next to a puddle of water. He stared at it, horrified by what he had almost done, then quickly picked it up and placed it back in his book. He held the book tightly shut the rest of the way to school. He was one of the first ones there. He had to wait for the doors to open. He kept on the lookout for Jeff and his gang. He stood with his back to the school wall so they couldn't sneak up behind him. He saw Andy. He thought Andy had seen him too, but if he had, he didn't do anything about it. When the doors opened, he was the first one in Mrs. Ebel's class. He sat at his desk, last seat, last row, and waited. As the other kids came in, he saw them put sheets of paper on Mrs. Ebel's desk. He wondered if that was their homework. He now had a new worry. He didn't know how he was supposed to turn in his homework. Jeff entered, placed a piece of paper on the pile on top of Mrs. Ebel's desk, then came back toward the back of the room. It must be his homework, thought Bradley. What else could it be? Shawnee, he said aloud. The girl who sat in front of Jeff turned around. Are you supposed to put your homework on Mrs. Ebel's desk? Don't tell me what to do, Bradley, Shawnee snapped. You worry about your homework and I'll worry about mine, okay? She turned back around. It was almost time for school to start. What if I have to put it on her desk before the bell rings or it doesn't count? He fumbled through his book for his homework, stood up, then headed for Mrs. Ebel's desk. He became more nervous with each step he took. His mouth was dry and he had trouble breathing. He could hardly see where he was going. He felt like he was going to faint. Mrs. Evil's desk seemed so far away. It was like he was looking at it through the wrong end of a telescope. His heart pounded and his homework rattled in his hand. Somehow he made it to her desk and tried to focus on the sheets of paper the other kids had put there. It looked like arithmetic homework, page 43. But instead of feeling better, he felt worse, like he was going to explode. Do you want something, Bradley? Asked Mrs. Evil. He looked at his homework shaking in his hand. Then he tore it in half and dropped it in the wastepaper basket next to Mrs. Evil's desk. He instantly felt better. His head cleared and his breathing returned to normal. His heart stopped pounding. He walked back to his desk, took a deep breath, exhaled, and sat down. He folded his hands on his desktop and lay his head sideways across them. He felt sad but relieved as he gazed at the gold stars. Aw, that makes me a little sad for Bradley. Let's read another chapter. Chapter 30. Bradley remained in his seat after everyone else had gone out to recess. He walked to Mrs. Evil's desk. She was sorting papers. Mrs. Evil, he said timidly, may I use the hall pass? I have to see the counselor. She looked up. Please. Normally, Mrs. Evil would never allow Bradley Chalkers loose in the halls, but something about the way he asked must have changed her mind. All right, Bradley, she said, then caught herself. But if you're bad, you'll never be allowed in the halls of this school again. Thank you. He took the hall pass off the hook behind her desk and headed out the door. You're welcome, Mrs. Evil said to herself. He knocked on the door to Carla's office. How nice to see you today, Bradley, she greeted him. I appreciate your coming to see me. He shook her hand, then they sat around the round table. She was wearing the shirt with the squiggles on it. It was the one she wore the first time he saw her. He liked it, but not as much as the one with the mice. I did my homework last night, he said. Carla beamed. I'm so proud of... I ripped it up. What? I ripped it up. I brought it to school, and I was just about to put it on the Mrs. Evil's desk, and then I ripped it up. Why did... Carla started to ask. Why did I rip it up? He asked her first. I don't know. Why did you? He shrugged. She shrugged. They both giggled. I was afraid you'd be mad, Bradley said when he stopped giggling. Carla shook her head. You did your homework. That's the important thing. I'm very proud of you, Bradley Chalkers. I'm going to do all my homework from now on, he promised. That's wonderful. What if I keep ripping it up, he asked. Why did you want to do that? I don't know. I didn't think I wanted to rip it up today. The main thing is that you did it, and you learned some things by doing it, didn't you? What of means, said Bradley. What of means? Carla repeated. Times, said Bradley. She stared at him baffled. Oh, right, she said, as if it all suddenly connected for her. Okay, so even though you ripped up your homework, you still remember what you learned. You didn't rip up your memory. And when Mrs. Evil gives you the next arithmetic test, you'll know how to answer the questions. If they don't change the rules, said Bradley. What rules? Like, what if they decide to make of mean subtraction? They won't change the rules, Carla assured him. Whoever they are. What if I rip up my test too? He asked. Carla looked at him as if he was being silly. Has Mrs. Evil given you any homework for tomorrow? She asked. Tomorrow's Saturday. Okay, for Monday. No, we never have homework over the weekend. He spoke like an expert, like he'd been doing homework for years. But we have a book report due next week. Only what? I don't have a book, and Mrs. Wilcott won't let me check out any from the library. Well, let's see, said Carla. Do you think you might know somebody else who might let you borrow a book? Think hard now. Bradley looked at all the books in her office. May I borrow one of yours? He asked. Please. I won't scribble in it. Carla walked around the table, then picked out a book from a stack on top of one of the bookcases. It's my favorite, she said as she gave it to Bradley. He read the title and laughed. My parents didn't steal an elephant by Ura C. Lasso. He opened to page 1 and read the first sentence. I hate tomato juice. He thought it was a funny sentence to start a book. He continued reading. Every morning, Aunt Ruth gives me a glass of tomato juice, and every morning I tell her I hate it. Fine, Dumpling, she always says. Don't drink it. She calls me Dumpling. Uncle Boris calls me Cornflake. They're crazy. One of these days, I'm afraid they're going to try to eat me. He glanced up at Carla, then returned to the book. My parents are in jail. They got arrested for stealing an elephant from the circus, only they didn't do it. If they stole an elephant, I'd know about it, wouldn't I? I mean, if your parents stole an elephant, don't you think you'd know about it? I think the elephant just ran away. His master was always mean to her. He whipped her and made her do stupid tricks. My parents used to complain about it a lot. That's why everybody thinks they stole her. So anyway, that's why I have to live with my crazy Aunt Ruth and Uncle Boris. If you ask me, they belong in the circus. They're crazy. Uncle Boris always smokes a cigar. It just hangs out of the corner of his mouth. Whenever he kisses my aunt, he swings the cigar out of the way with his tongue and kisses her her out of the side of his mouth. I bet you think Mrs. Aunt Ruth doesn't like when he kisses her that way. Wrong. She always laughs when he does it. Sometimes she smokes a cigar too. I told you they were crazy. Look, he even smokes a cigar when he's drinking tomato juice. The bell rang. Bradley was amazed by how quickly the time had passed. Do you want to have lunch together? He asked. I'm sorry, I'm having lunch with the president of the school board, said Carla. I'd much rather eat lunch with you. He didn't mind too much. At least he had a book to read. They shook hands, then he walked back to his class. He placed the hall pass back on the hook and took his seat. He knew he'd write a good book report because he had such a good book to read. I just hope I don't rip it up. And friends, we're going to stop there for now.